Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your kind attention? Thank you. I'd like to call the Legislative Committee meeting of March 19, 2024 to order. I will call the roll. Mr. Massey?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Tobin?
Here.
Ms. Ray?
Here.
Thank you. All in attendance. Action item, approval of the minutes for 2/20/24. I will put the motion on the floor. I'd like a second.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Massey. Do you have any questions, comments, corrections? Mr. Kleiner? Thank you. Are we good? We're good. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Motion carries. There are two items of new business. As soon as Counselor has concluded his conversation, we can begin.
Anytime you're ready.
With all due respect.
Which would you like to do first?
Your choice.
Procurement?
Perfect.
The procurement code that we have, as Leonora has pointed out, this was her idea to make it a little bit more specific. Now, obviously, we are bound by state statutes on procurement. We have to follow state guidelines. But quite a few municipalities in New York, in addition to the state guidelines, have produced their own local guidelines. And the reason for it, I think, is because the state guidelines don't cover everything, and they arguably don't provide enough guidance to local municipalities, to to everyone around the state. So what Leonora and I did is that we took a look at some other local guidelines, municipalities, a couple of counties, we looked at a couple other cities, and we came up with these suggestions to put in our code. So, because our code has been very, unspecific for many years. We basically just told people we have to follow state guidelines. And now we're putting in our own code the more specific guidelines that we follow to give us not just the fact that we have to abide by the state guidelines. We all know that. But this gives us, what we tried to do here was provide guidelines that allow us as much discretion as we think is possible under state guidelines so that we can, have common sense procurement guidelines. And that's basically it. We took some suggestions from other municipalities and counties, and that's here now.
All righty. On behalf of the committee, I thank you for taking the initiative to make an improvement. Committee of the whole, go around the table. Ms. Ray, anything?
No issues with clarifying our language.
Jean-Francois, anything? Mr. Tobin?
Nope.
Mr. Massey?
Nothing.
Mr. Witt?
Fine.
Mr. Green?
Good.
Mr. Kleiner?
Okay.
Okay. This is an action item, so I will put it on the floor to approve as presented. I'll take a second from Mr. Massey. Members of the Legislative Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Motion carries. On to business permits, please.
This is even simpler. The new business permit ordinance requires signups by businesses around the city. And our fire inspector suggested this amendment because he's run into a few problems about getting the exact identification, getting exact addresses. And the way we had written the business permits in the beginning was that it was the responsibility of the owner of the business. Now we're expanding that to make it as well the responsibility of the property owner to tell us the identifications and the addresses and the information that we need. So it makes the property owner responsible, which I think is a good idea.
Okay, thank you. We're revisiting a prior conversation. Questions, Committee of the Whole. Mr. Kleiner, anything?
That sounds like a good idea.
Mr. Green?
We need it.
Mr. Witt?
Totally agree.
Massey? Mr. Tobin? Sounds good. Mr. Jean-Francois? Ms. Ray?
All good.
Thank you, thank you. I'll put the motion on the floor. Mr. Massey makes a second. Any discussion? All members of the Legislative Committee in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Motion carries. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Mr. Massey seconds. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All members of the committee in favor? Opposed or abstain? We're in adjournment.